Another year, another birthday party I wasn't invited to. My phone buzzed with notifications, a cruel symphony of my family's perfect lives playing out on social media. Giselle, my older sister, 41, CEO of everything that mattered in their world, posted a carousel of photos from Dad's 65th birthday bash. There she was, draped in designer silk, arm in arm with her husband, Vincent, her smile so wide it looked painted on. Then Colby, my younger brother, 36, flashed his new watch in a selfie with Dad, River, looking as stern and unapproachable as ever. Mum, Marissa, 63, beamed from the center of a group shot, her perfectly coiffed hair and expensive pearls screaming family tradition. Me? My name is Caroline. I turned 38 this year, a milestone that felt less like an achievement and more like a countdown to financial ruin. Most people my age are building equity, maybe planning a second kid. Me? I'm watching my life savings circle the drain, thanks to a divorce that bled me dry and a marketing job that vanished overnight. My family, the Sanders, who once prided themselves on their impeccable image and generational wealth, now referred to me as the leech in their private group chats, a fact Giselle made sure I found out. They'd all benefited from the family trust for years, but when I needed help, I was suddenly unworthy, an embarrassment to be scrubbed from the family album. The only one who ever truly saw me, who believed I was capable of more than just surviving, was my grandfather. He passed away a few months ago, and the ache of his absence was a constant companion. He was the only one who didn't judge my choices, who always had a kind word, a quiet nod of encouragement. Days after his funeral, a small, unassuming envelope arrived in the mail. It was addressed to me, in his familiar, shaky handwriting. Inside, I found a single ornate key and a note telling me to hold on to it, that the time would come. But I was too deep in the trenches, too overwhelmed by the daily fight against mounting debts and the crushing weight of my family's disdain, to even consider what it might mean. I just tossed it into a drawer, another unopened burden. Tonight, as I scrolled past another picture of their laughing faces, a wave of cold fury washed over me. I walked to the old oak dresser, pulled open the bottom drawer, and there it was, tucked beneath a pile of old scarves, the sealed envelope, untouched. His enigmatic warning scrawled on the back seemed to glow in the dim light. Wait until they show their true faces. The true faces note felt like a challenge, a whisper from beyond the grave. But the truth was, their faces had been showing for a long time. The past few weeks since Dad's party had been a blur of escalating misery. The phone calls started coming at all hours, not from my family, but from the collection agency for my car loan, then the one for my credit cards. The loan sharks, as I grimly called them, were getting bolder, their voices sharper. Then Giselle decided to turn the knife. She forwarded screenshots of the family group chat to a mutual acquaintance, knowing full well they'd get back to me. "Caroline's just a drain on the family," Mom had written. "Always has been." Colby chimed in. "Maybe she should just sell that dump she calls a house and get a studio apartment. Less overhead for the leech." Giselle had added her own comment. "Honestly, it's embarrassing. Good thing grandfather's trust is structured to protect us from that kind of mismanagement." The acquaintance, bless her heart, sent them to me with a horrified emoji. I called Lara, my best friend since college. She's 39, a no-nonsense architect, and the only person who hadn't abandoned me. "They're circling, Lara," I choked out, tears finally coming. "They want me gone, utterly. I don't know what to do." "You open that damn envelope, Caroline," she said, her voice firm. "Your grandfather wouldn't have given you something for nothing. He was the smartest man I ever met." Her words resonated. My grandfather had always been a step ahead. That night, with a knot of dread and a flicker of desperate hope, I retrieved the envelope. My hands trembled as I carefully broke the seal. Inside, along with the ornate key, was another handwritten note, and a small card with an address. The note read, "Caroline, my dear, this is for those who believed in you least, and for the one who always did. The key is for the safety deposit box at the address below. You'll find what you need there. Trust yourself." The card listed the address of a downtown bank I'd never visited. The next morning, fueled by a strange mix of fear and resolve, I walked into the bank. My heart hammered against my ribs as I presented the key and my ID. The clerk led me to a private room. When the heavy door of the deposit box swung open, my breath hitched. Inside, nestled among stacks of crisp legal documents, was a USB drive labeled "Video Message" and a thick, official-looking folder. The folder's tab read, in bold, stark letters, "Sanders Family Trust, amended." My hands shook as I pulled out the amended trust document. I didn't even need to open it fully to see my name, Caroline Sanders, prominently featured. Then, the USB drive. I found a public library with computers, my own laptop being too old and unreliable for something this important. Plugging in the drive, a video file appeared. It was my grandfather, looking frail, but with that familiar twinkle in his eye. He spoke calmly, explaining that he'd been observing his family for years, seeing the greed, the entitlement, the way they'd treated me. He'd made provisions, he said, to ensure that his true legacy and his true values would be upheld. He spoke of the trust, a substantial amount, and how it was now largely mine, with specific instructions for its management and distribution. A few days later, a call came from Matt Gardner, the family lawyer. He's 58, sharp as a tack, and had handled my grandfather's affairs for decades. His voice was calm, professional, but held a hint of something else. Respect, maybe. "Caroline," he began, "I need to speak with you privately about your grandfather's will. I've reviewed the documents you accessed. They are authentic, and I am obligated to carry out his final wishes." He confirmed everything, the substantial inheritance, the ironclad stipulations. He also mentioned a specific clause that would be revealed at the official reading, one that would expose certain family betrayals. Meanwhile, oblivious to the seismic shift about to hit them, my family was in full meltdown mode. Giselle called me, not to apologize, but to complain about unexpected fluctuations in the family trust's usual payouts. Colby texted, bragging about a new real estate deal he was closing, implying he'd need a little extra capital from the trust soon. They were squabbling over dwindling funds, completely unaware that the wellspring they depended on had been rerouted. I just listened, offering non-committal "oh reallys" and "that's too bads." It was strangely exhilarating, playing along, letting them dig their own graves with their entitlement. Then Mac dropped the bombshell. "Caroline," he said, his voice lowering, "a surprise family meeting has been scheduled for the reading of the amended will. Your father and Giselle have been informed it's a formality, a minor update. But you, Caroline, are the only one who knows there's been a change." The days leading up to the amended will reading felt like a slow-motion car crash. My family, completely oblivious, continued their usual theatrics. My mother, Marissa, called me, her voice dripping with passive aggression. "Caroline, darling, I know things are tight for you, but your father and I are facing some unexpected expenses. Perhaps you could consider settling those outstanding debts. It would be such a relief to us, you know, not to have that hanging over the family's good name." I just told her I was working on it. A vague answer that seemed to satisfy her for the moment. Giselle, meanwhile, threw a lavish party, ostensibly to celebrate the family's future. It was at her sprawling estate, and the invitation, which I received via text from Riley, Giselle's 19-year-old daughter, felt less like an invite and more like a taunt. I declined, citing a prior engagement. I could almost hear Giselle's scoff. Riley, bless her heart, texted me privately later. "Sorry, Aunt Caroline. Mum's being extra. Hope you're okay." She was the only one who seemed to possess an ounce of genuine empathy. Their barbs, which once felt like tiny cuts, now bounced off me. I was preparing. I spent hours with Mac, going over the details, understanding the intricacies of the trust, the stipulations, the clauses. It was like learning a new language, one of power and control. My mind drifted back to childhood. Giselle, always the golden child. Colby, the spoiled prince. I was the quiet middle, often overlooked, sometimes mocked. I remembered a Christmas when I was about 10. I'd built an elaborate fort in the living room, proud of my creation. Giselle, then 13, had marched in, declared it ugly, and kicked down one of the blanket walls, laughing as I burst into tears. My parents had just told me to stop being so sensitive. The seeds of exclusion, of being less than, had been sown early. The day of the reading arrived. I woke up with a strange calm, a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I arrived at Mac's downtown office building a good 20 minutes early, wanting to collect myself. As I stepped out of the elevator on the correct floor, I heard voices from Mac's partially open office door, Giselle's sharp tone, then Colby's booming laugh. I paused, hidden by a corner. "Look, he's old," Giselle was saying. "He probably just forgot to update the paperwork. We just need to make sure Caroline doesn't get any ideas. We'll vote her out of any trust changes before they even get started." Colby chuckled. "Exactly. No way she gets her hands on any more of our money." I took a deep breath. The overheard conversation, a cold, hard confirmation of their contempt. I smoothed down my dress, walked into the waiting area, and greeted Mac, who gave me a subtle, knowing nod. Then I entered the conference room. My family was already there, a tableau of smug entitlement. Giselle, Vincent, Colby, Mom, Dad. They barely acknowledged me, offering curt nods or outright ignoring my presence. Dad, River, sat at the head of the table looking impatient. Mum, Marissa, fussed with her handbag. Giselle and Colby exchanged smirks. Riley wasn't there. She was away at college, a fortunate escape from this circus. Mac, ever the professional, cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming. We are here today for the reading of the late Mr. Sanders's will." He began, his voice even, reading the familiar clauses of the original will, the one everyone knew, the standard distributions, the family trust allocations, the usual beneficiaries. My family members shifted, bored, convinced this was a mere formality. Then Mac paused. He looked directly at me. I stood up, the envelope with my grandfather's final note clutched in my hand, a silent signal. Mac picked up a different document. "However," he announced, his voice now carrying an undeniable weight, "Mr. Sanders executed an amendment to his will and the family trust 3 months prior to his passing. This amendment significantly alters the distribution of his estate." A ripple of unease went through the room. Giselle's smile faltered. Colby stopped fiddling with his phone. "Per the terms of this amended will," Mac continued, "the vast majority of Mr. Sanders's liquid assets, totaling approximately $62 million, along with controlling interest in the Sanders Family Trust, is hereby bequeathed to Caroline Sanders." The air left the room in a collective gasp. Giselle shot to her feet, her face contorted. "What? That's impossible. She's a—" "Silence, Giselle." Mac cut her off, his voice like steel. "The stipulations are ironclad, legally binding, and were executed with full mental capacity and independent legal counsel. Furthermore, A specific clause addresses certain financial transactions and communications that occurred within the family in the last 5 years. He then read, with chilling precision, details of how Giselle and Colby had siphoned funds from a smaller, discretionary trust meant for family emergencies, using it for personal luxuries and investments, while publicly shaming me for my financial struggles. He even quoted specific emails and text messages, including Giselle's leech comment. Giselle shouted, "This is a lie! A setup!" Colby slammed his fist on the table and stormed out, muttering curses. Mom collapsed into her chair, sobbing dramatically. Dad sat rigid, his face a mask of shock and fury. Through the chaos, Mac walked over to me. He handed me another sealed note, smaller this time, with my grandfather's familiar handwriting. "What you do next," it read, "will define your legacy." The aftermath of the will reading was a blur of shouting, accusations, and Mac's calm, unwavering reiteration of the legal facts. My family, stripped bare of their assumed inheritance and exposed for their petty betrayals, were a pathetic sight. Colby, after his initial outburst, returned, his face pale with a forced smile, attempting to apologize. Giselle, still fuming, tried to argue with Mac, then turned her venom on me. Mom just kept repeating, "How could grandfather do this to us?" In the days that followed, the phone calls and texts started. Not the loan sharks this time, but my family. They desperately sought my favor, their voices sickeningly sweet. "Caroline, dear, about that loan for my new gallery space." From Mum. "Sis, I just need a temporary bridge loan for a fantastic real estate opportunity." From Colby. Giselle, ever the strategist, tried a different tack. "Caroline, we're family. We need to present a united front. Surely you don't want to destroy grandfather's legacy by alienating us. A small allocation from the trust would show good faith." I listened, my expression unreadable. I remembered every cruel word, every slight, every time they'd dismissed me. "No," I told each of them, my voice steady. "I don't think so." I explained calmly that the trust was now under my control and that I would be making decisions based on who had shown genuine kindness and support. That list, I made clear, was very short. The only one I even considered was Riley. She called, not asking for money, but to genuinely apologize for her mother's behavior and to see how I was doing. "Aunt Caroline, I'm so sorry. I always thought Mom was wrong about you." I told her we'd talk, properly. Lara was my rock. We met for coffee, and I poured out everything. "It's intoxicating, Lara," I admitted. "This power. But it's also isolating. They hate me, but they need me. It's a twisted game." She just listened, then reminded me, "You earned this, Caroline. Don't let them manipulate you now." But the family wasn't giving up. A week later, Mac called. "Caroline," he said, a hint of concern in his voice. "Giselle has hired a private investigator. She's hinting that there might be a way to contest the will or dig up dirt to destroy your reputation." The game, it seemed, was far from over. Giselle and Colby didn't waste any time. The dirt-digging campaign started subtly, then escalated. Anonymous online posts appeared, hinting at my past financial struggles, my divorce, painting me as irresponsible and unstable. Then came the legal threats, letters from Giselle's new lawyer claiming undue influence over my grandfather. It was all a desperate, clumsy attempt to discredit me, but they had underestimated Mac and my grandfather's foresight. The trust documents contained a trove of information meticulously gathered by my grandfather over years. When Giselle's lawyer publicly questioned the amendment's validity, Mac, with my permission, anonymously leaked excerpts from the trust's supporting documents to a financial blog known for exposing corporate malfeasance. These leaks detailed Giselle and Colby's illicit use of the discretionary trust funds, their attempts to hide assets, and their cruel private communications about me. The leech comment, now public, became a trending topic. Their campaign of public humiliation backfired spectacularly, turning into a public reckoning for them. The internet, it turned out, had a long memory. I knew I needed one final confrontation. I called Giselle, not to gloat, but to close this chapter. She agreed to meet at a neutral coffee shop, her voice tight with barely contained fury. She arrived, eyes blazing, ready to launch into another tirade. "Giselle," I started, cutting her off before she could begin. "I didn't do this to destroy you. I did this because you and the rest of them systematically tried to destroy me. I laid it all out, every memory. Do you remember when I lost my job and you told Mom and Dad I was too soft for the corporate world? When Vincent made a joke about my failed marriage at Christmas dinner and you laughed? When you forwarded those group chats, calling me a leech, while you and Colby were secretly siphoning money from the family's emergency fund?" Her face, usually so composed, crumpled. "We were just trying to protect the family name," she spat, but it sounded hollow, even to her. "No," I said, my voice unwavering. "You were protecting your own image, your own entitlement. Grandfather saw it. He saw how you treated me, how you valued money and appearances over decency. This isn't just about the money, Giselle. It's about what you became, what you let yourselves become." She stared at me, her eyes filled with a mix of hatred and a dawning, terrible understanding. "You're just as cruel as us," she whispered, her voice raw. "No," I replied. "I'm just holding you accountable." I stood up. "This is it, Giselle. There's nothing left to say." As I walked away, leaving her alone at the table, a strange emptiness settled over me. The revenge was complete. The karma delivered. But the cost, I realized, was far heavier than I'd ever imagined. I sat in the living room of my new home, a quiet, modern place overlooking a small park. The house was beautiful, the view serene, but the silence felt heavy. The initial rush of vindication had faded, leaving behind a hollow ache. Nothing felt quite as sweet as I'd imagined it would. The constant hum of anxiety about money was gone, replaced by a different kind of burden. The weight of what I'd done, and the gaping hole where my family used to be. A knock on the door broke the quiet. It was Riley. She stood there, a small potted plant in her hands, looking a little shy. "Aunt Caroline," she said, her voice soft. "I just wanted to see how you were doing. And I brought you this." She stepped inside, looking around with wide, curious eyes. We talked for hours, not about the money or the family drama, but about her college classes, her dreams, and my grandfather. She was the only one who offered genuine connection, free from expectation or resentment. It was a fragile bridge, but it was something. I spent weeks deliberating what to do with the majority of the inheritance. My grandfather's note, "What you do next will define your legacy," echoed in my mind. I decided to establish a foundation in his name, focused on supporting young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds, exactly the kind of people my family would have dismissed. It bypassed Giselle, Colby, Mom, and Dad entirely, ensuring his true values, not their greed, would be the lasting legacy. Then a final email from Mac Gardner arrived. "Caroline," it read, "the legal challenges from your sister and brother have been dismissed. The public fallout from the leaked documents has been significant, and their reputations, along with your parents', are largely shattered. The Sanders family trust, as they knew it, is effectively dissolved, with the remaining assets now under the Foundation's control. The saga, it seems, has finally ended." I reread the email, then looked out at the park. I was stronger now, undeniably. I had faced down my demons, both external and internal. But I was also lonelier. The pursuit of justice had consumed me, and in its wake left a landscape of scorched earth. Grandfather wanted me to wait until they showed their true faces. They had, and I had played my part. But as I sat there, surrounded by the quiet comfort of my new life, I wondered if karma sometimes leaves everyone, even the victor, with scars.